and welcome to Write Volumes. Behind the Volume present Shades of Writers video interview. My name is Janaea. I'm one of the editors and founders of Write Volumes. Our goal is to give diverse voices an outlet for expression and to bring attention to diverse writers and our thoughts. We are releasing a monthly newsletter where we will feature interviews of our wonderful writers to help people like you get to know them better. And now we'll also do video interviews to delve deeper into some topics that are conveyed better over video. Our second video interview conversation is with JoJo. Jhoselin Dominguez, also known as JoJo, is one of our Write Volumes authors. She is a graphic design graduate from Fort Hays State University, part-time writer and full-time artist living in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Her love of writing began amongst friends back in the 7th grade. Her fictional short stories explore existential topics and characters that wander through her mind. Welcome, JoJo. I am gonna stop sharing my screen so we can have her. And before we discuss your pieces in the Write Volume anthologies, I wanted to point out that you are not only a writer, but a graphic designer and storyteller. And you also created the covers of our books. And we are so grateful for you designing the beautiful covers of Shades of Transition and Transformation, Shades of Horror and Strangeness, and the upcoming Shades of Chicago. So where did you take your visual inspiration from?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I found that whenever I have my speaker unmuted while you're speaking, I have a tough time hearing you. So I'm going to be muted until I speak, just so you know.
Okay. Oh no.
I just wanted to let you know about that.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, so I was inspired to for the covers of Shades in Transition and Transformation by the idea of volumes were considered kind of like an more of like an older term for like a collection of books. You know, like I think they're still considered volumes, but I don't know. I personally I heard volumes and I was like, oh, it's like an old collection of like books of like series of stories and stuff like that. And so I took the idea of like making it kind of seem like something that would be considered like kind of like out of time a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, but also a little bit like modern, you know, with that twist. And because anthologies are a collection of like different stories and different pieces and stuff like that, I decided to take the idea of like bringing things together and just like having it all accumulate into like one thing all together, because that's what an anthology is with the border art. And that's why I decided to do it that way, because I was just like, it's like little bits and pieces all coming together, just like an anthology is. It's little, like, it's stories and people coming together to like create this collection. And so that's like the way that I went about creating like the idea of like creating like a border with like little things being like put into it. And I also really wanted to focus a lot on typography. I felt like it was something that I needed to practice more in, and something that I wanted to like have my hand in more. And so that's why I decided to like make the majority of it just basically type. And so I drew up a little sketch that I have here. You can see it.
That's
It's pretty similar to what ended up happening with Shades of Horror and Transformation. And just one night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, me just sketching until I just like completely like had it all out, because like I had this like vision in my brain. And um it's just that's just like what I saw, and it's pretty similar to like what ended up happening, and how. And I'm like so grateful that like I was just kind of like allowed this creative freedom with it. And it was really fun. It was super cool.
yeah, it's funny. So watchers, she had asked us what we were going for, and I kind of gave her like the feeling and the idea that we wanted to evoke. And then she came back to me and she was like, hey, I kind of came up with this idea. And then she showed it to me and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So it's pretty funny. I'm grateful that you actually took the time to come up with your own idea, because it was so much better than anything I had actually imagined for the books. Not that I imagined something not good for the covers, but what you came up with, yeah, it's awesome. Um, What artwork, what type of artwork do you do in your daily life?
So it's interesting because I've been doing like a series of like some freelance work I'll occasionally do for some people here in the Twin Cities. Like I had a friend of mine, she's starting a video production company and she wanted some help with some branding. So I helped her and I worked with her for over the course of like a couple months to do her like logo and do like some stationery as well as like some online stuff that she wanted to do. And so I've done some of that. I've also done recently actually I did a series of murals I painted for the Black Lives Matter movement in downtown Minneapolis. And so that's kind of like some acrylic painting that I helped with like a local artist here that I know, and his name is Chris Harrison and he's pretty awesome. And then I also just do some digital illustrations sometimes of like whatever I happen to be a fan of, whatever I like end up feeling, whatever I happen to sketch. I do a lot of sketching at work, similar to like what I showed before, where it's just like things that cross my mind or just cute little things that I like to draw. And sometimes I take that digitally, and I don't know, it's just kind of wherever right now. Some things it's like for a person, and some things it's just kind of like for me. So
Nice. So your biography mentions that you tell stories in other ways than the written word. What types of stories do you tend to tell through video or illustration? And how similar are they or different from the stories that you're told in the anthologies?
yeah, that's a really great question. Um, I think like for me, it the story that you're trying to tell, like the medium in which you decide to tell it in really can amplify like what you're trying to say and like where the story is going. I truly believe that there are some stories that don't translate as well into like other mediums because they're truly created for one specific medium, and the medium really helps tell that. Like for instance, something that I created, which is not the most like I guess original idea, but in the way that we told it, in collaboration with some friends of mine, we did an animated like type, like kinetic type is what it's called, where you animate words and letters in different ways to like tell a story, where you just like instead of visually like having say like you draw an airplane, you write the word airplane and you animate the word airplane in a way so that it looks like an airplane or it depicts that story. And we told the story about individualism through the letter I and the different ways that the letter I can represent itself. And I believe like, and so it's like a story about like being yourself along with the song that we chose for it, and just like showing that shift with like the letter I. And so it's about like personality and like strengthening your self identity and like being true to yourself essentially. And that's more of like the stories that I like to tell in a more active way, like things that are like very positive and very like much so like enforcing like your identity and just being like true to yourself, and or just like I don't know, just more like active in that kind of way, are stories that I would bring into like video or animation, more so than I would writing. My writing is more introspective, I would say. It's why I consider it like existential like thoughts and stuff like that. It's more of an internal, I guess, like an internal perspective that I have and an internal observation about like the world that's going in, because I feel like the medium for those kinds of stories works best in poetry or in books, in stories. And I feel like that's the medium that works best with like if I decide to tell those stories.
Does a does being a visual artist, I guess it then influences your writing?
It kind of does. It does, because as a visual artist, especially over the past like couple years, I've learned to become more observant of things that I didn't before, you know, and just like noticing details and stuff like that. And so I bring some of like that little like attention to detail and like attention to like I guess like more like visually how things look in stories more so than I did in the past. So and that's the thing that I've been noticing recently about myself.
So do you feel like there's a difference for you when you're creating something visually versus writing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think writing, it's more of like this contemplative, like exploration of like thought process versus like visually. Usually it's like an observation of like visual process, you know, like where does your eye follow, like how does the story that you're trying to tell visually, how does that work with your eyes and like the way that you perceive things visually versus like when you're reading, the way that you perceive things mentally through your like train of thought, you know. It's like I see the color red and I like in a picture and I'm going to see it as angry. Like I think it's like this is something that's angry or this is something that's very passionate because like that color is associated with that and you feel that way because you see it. And it's the same way how like if you read a very delicate poem that has very beautiful words and is very soothing and the rhyme and the contour of it is just very the canter of it, I guess you would say, is like very smooth and connected, you're going to feel that way with it because of the way that it's written. And so yeah, it kind of depends. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, no, you got there. Yeah. Huh. It is very interesting because you're right. When you're writing, you're trying to produce a feeling. And then when you're doing a visual work, you're also trying to evoke a feeling, but you come at it from different angles. So,
Yeah,
what artists? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's okay, you can go ahead to the next.
I was going to ask what artists have inspired you?
Well, there's like two different types of ways that I've really enjoyed art over the past couple years as I've been learning more about it. One is in like a more traditional sense, and this is like how people talk about how Leonardo da Vinci and like the Mona Lisa and like, you know, where it's like more like Renaissance period, you know, and it's really just like focused more on aesthetic than anything else, you know.
Mhm.
And for me, like that, I think I really like um Paul Rubens' work. I don't like, admittedly, I don't know much about Paul Rubin, which is terrible. I know. But when I went to Germany, I saw some of his work like in person, and it's these huge, beautiful murals and paintings. And I fell in love with the way that he depicts like movement and these people and these stories. And it's just like, it's just gorgeous. It's just literally jaw dropping. And like, I admire it for that, like, just like the skill. It's just like, oh my God. And then like another like side of like the art world that I've been discovering through graphic design specifically is the work of there's this movie called Grand Budapest Hotel by Wes Anderson. I don't know if have you ever seen that
I
movie?
haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's a beautiful movie. But I had a chance here a couple years ago at a graphic design conference to hear from the graphic designer for that movie and hear about her process and to see like all of the beautiful like print work that she had done for that movie. You know, every packaging design that was in it, all the maps that were drawn, all the props that like that people that the actors work with and everything that like helps build this world within the film. And like I'm just like, again, it was like similar to like with the Rubens. I was like jaw dropping, like, oh my God, the attention to detail, the beauty behind it, like the meaning, like everything has a story behind it, you know. And that's like something that I always look for, is just like in any kind of art, I'm just like, what is the story that's being told here, like, and how are they telling it, and in the way that they have told it.
Yeah. And that attention to detail, that actually shows a lot in the covers that you designed because all the I don't know, the flourishes or the borders, it's all filled with like different things of horror for shades of horror or transitions for shades of transition. So I think you really embodied that in your work.
Yeah, thanks. I've been trying to get better at that because it's a skill that I admire a lot in other people, but admittedly I have a lot of trouble in. And especially with these covers, I really just wanted to go all out. Like
Mhm.
this was me like trying to be like, okay, I'm going to be like this person who has a lot of attention to detail and is just going full out into it.
Nice. Um, so thank you for your time and thank you so much for your writing, Jojo. We also want to thank everyone for listening. This is Behind the Volume Look at Right Volumes in the Making. Please check us out more at writevol.com for latest info. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember, together we can write volumes.